Hello everybody, welcome back to another video game analysis. And today we're talking about Donkey Kong. We talked about him before, and last time we talked about him, we talked about the history of Donkey Kong and how Nintendo really used him as a character to jumpstart new ideas. It's actually similar to how Wario worked in a few ways. But there's a lot of cool things about Donkey Kong's lineage, his family, the Kong family, because there's little tidbits I can talk about. How Kiddy Kong is from Donkey Kong Country 3 is the younger brother of Chunky Kong from Donkey Kong 64. I believe Trixie Kong and Tiny Kong, or what was it, Dixie Kong? Yeah, Dixie Kong. I always call it Trixie for some reason. Dixie Kong and Tiny Kong are cousins. Obviously they're all different animals, not animals, but types of primates. Like Donkey Kong is a gorilla, Lanky Kong is a orangutan. So obviously they can't all be related, like by blood, but there is three Kongs I want to talk about. The three Donkey Kongs. If we have the first Donkey Kong from the arcade games, you have Donkey Kong Jr., and then you have the rare Donkey Kong. The rareware Donkey Kong, I guess, is a better way of saying it, so it's not a... But yeah, basically you have the one without the tie, the one with the shirt, and the one with the tie. So, let's get into that. Well, first off, I want to talk about the old arcade games. Here's a nice familiar game for you guys to look at. Unfortunately, I really wanted to show off Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. arcade games, but my only access to it is an NES cartridge with both the games in one pack that my Retron 5 can't read. And, to be honest with you, to hook up my NES to my capture card would have been a huge hassle. Because it's only coax, and I'd have to get converters and everything. So, unfortunately, just to show off the fact that Donkey Kong Jr. exists. Donkey Kong Jr., it was a fun idea. I always like to think of him as Donkey Kong. After Nintendo won the lawsuit with Universal about King Kong, they said, you know what, let's make another Donkey Kong, just to be a jerk, right? That's how, I know that's probably not the case, but that's how I like to look at it. As you can see, it almost a stellar performance in Super Mario Kart as I did last time, but, you can ignore that and just listen to what I'm saying, right? So, Donkey Kong, in today's world, this is something I explained in the last Donkey Kong video real quick. Donkey Kong in the arcade games, the one that jump-started Mario's career, is Cranky Kong in the rare games, and, from every Donkey Kong game afterwards, like even today with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. That Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong. And we're going to see it again, but it's like in the Donkey Kong Country game, the first for the Super Nintendo, they show off the little opening cinematic. There's Cranky Kong with his record player on Donkey Kong rafters, and yeah, that is the original Donkey Kong. And one thing I want to note here is Donkey Kong Jr. here, the character I'm playing right now, is not the Donkey Kong that we're familiar with the tie from Rare. That is the grandson of Cranky Kong, and I always found that and a lot of people find that confusing. And for years, I would say, oh well, monkeys, apes, primates, whatever you want to call them, they all age differently than humans. But really, it's no matter what, the confusion's not lost because it all comes down to the fact about Mario. You see Mario the same age with the rareware Donkey Kong. So you're thinking to yourself, how does that work? How does 2 generations go by where Mario did not age? I, for one, for years just, it's something to ignore. And, yeah, fine, it's probably not the most useful information in the world, but that's the point of this show, right? We're analyzing where no one has analyzed before. And from my thoughts, I ended up coming to the conclusion that Donkey Kong Jr. has had more of a career than just being in Donkey Kong Jr. or Super Mario Kart here, or Donkey Kong Jr. Math, for people who knows about that existing, like I do, only because of Animal Crossing. Donkey Kong Jr. is the bridge between Cranky Kong and our current Donkey Kong, the rareware Donkey Kong, and that's clear. What's not clear to many fans is how the age process works compared to Mario. I, for one, came to the conclusion that Donkey Kong Jr. grows up to be a Donkey Kong with a tie, much like our Rareware Donkey Kong, except for the fact that, you know, if he wears a shirt, it says J. You know, his dad got old. He retired, I guess you can say. He just went to making potions or whatever. And Donkey Kong Jr. here needed to claim the identity as Donkey Kong. So he adopted the form of DK. You know, he got a tie to show he'd grown up. He replaced it with his shirt. You know, let's go into more detail in the next part. So I know I'm probably sounding a little confusing here, like all over the place. I just want big points here. The Donkey Kong lineage of the 3 Donkey Kongs, you know, we have Donkey Kong the Third, really. That's our Rareware Donkey Kong. And, you know, there's a lot of confusion there. And, you know, people just made fun of it. They never, you know, there's no real, like, I mentioned this before, you know, I know this is not the biggest deal in the world, but I thought it'd be fun. And, you know, along with that, we know that the other Kongs aren't related. Like, Diddy Kong is a monkey, Donkey Kong's a gorilla. They're not related to a orangutan like Lanky Kong. They're not related to whatever Chunky Kong is. I think he's also a gorilla, I don't know. But, you know, they all adopted the name Kong. You know, like, Donkey Kong Island became a thing. Rareware changed a lot, as we explained last time in the game. And last time we talked about Donkey Kong in this series, I'm sorry. And yeah, let's just delve into that a little more. So yeah, as promised, we have the Rareware Donkey Kong, who is the grandson of Cranky Kong, the original Donkey Kong. And just to be real quick, I want to explain the reasoning why, despite all the confusion about the age thing with Mario compared to Donkey Kong, the reason why they did that is a traditional cartoon media reason. The thing is, if Cranky, here's the thought process. It's the same thing with Huey, Dewey, and Louie being the nephews of Donald Duck and not his sons and stuff like that. It's the reason why Max Goof, like, I'm making some Disney comparisons here, yeah, but it's the reason why Max Goof is not in dangerous situations because of his father, Goofy. It's because for children's media, adventurers typically don't like, you know, when it comes to adventure series or whatever you want to call it, they don't like it. Parents wouldn't like especially the idea of letting their children go on an adventure, but at the same time, you know, when you have a young hero that kids can connect to, you like the idea of them having freedoms that they don't. It's a fantasy kind of thing. Like in Hey Arnold, for example, he's allowed to go all around what is pretty much New York City. You know, if I did that in the 4th grade, I would, you know, I wasn't even allowed to cross the street until in my dead end street until I was like 8. You know, and the fact of the matter is, and I know, fine, Gorilla's my best example when it comes to relating to children, but the fact of it is, there would be a problem. It's just a traditional thing when it comes to children's media. People wouldn't like seeing parents send their kid out to danger. So if they are related but not directly related, you know, there's a suspension of belief or disbelief there. You know, yeah, word flow, death. I'm honest with you guys. I keep the deaths in. You know how that works. But yeah, with that in mind, you know, all the Kong, you know, now we have Kong Island with Donkey Kong Country, you know, all that, all the apes, primates, whatever you want to call them, and Kong Island adopted the name Kong. Like, it's not really a surname, it's more like a title of where they live. But when it comes to Donkey Kong, he is the guy in charge. He always has been. He's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. You know, OG Donkey Kong fans know what I'm talking about. And, you know, when it comes to the difference between Donkey Kong Country and the arcade games, you know, I touched on this last time I talked about Donkey Kong. There's a lot of huge differences. And, you know, it's something totally new. So you needed a new Donkey Kong. You know, with that out of the way, I want to make the point that, like I said, I think Donkey Kong Jr. got the tie that he gave to his son. And that's what we're seeing here, the Rareware Donkey Kong. But when he's with Mario, I like to think that that's Donkey Kong Jr., who's probably the laziest of them all. You know, like maybe he settled his difference with Mario after Mario stopped bothering the Cranky Kong. Let's just call him that for the sake of not getting confused with all the Donkey Kongs. And, you know, Cranky Kong retired, Donkey Kong and Mario have nothing against each other anymore. So they went to parties together. They did karting together, starting with Super Mario Kart, in fact. Maybe that was the first time they had a truce. You know, I want to build this narrative here, you know? Like, maybe, not that I'm the law of what happened, but maybe Donkey Kong Jr. went to Super Mario Kart as a peace offering for the fact that Cranky Kong was out of the picture. He went to Kong Island and he just took up a new life as a scientist, right? Why not? You know, no more stealing Mario's girlfriend. Mario moved on anyways in the Mushroom Kingdom. So they go to parties, they go kart racing, they do golf together, baseball, you know, all the stuff we mentioned before in the sports video, right? And, you know, all of that combined, maybe they grew up to the point where Donkey Kong, you know, the rare Donkey Kong is doing his own thing. He's on his island just hanging out. He's adopting a whole thing that the original Donkey Kong, Cranky Kong, created. You know, he got an island together, a family's created, a Kong dynasty was built, you know. I think it's really cool things to point out. I think it's a really interesting thing to think about when you get over the fact of Mario's age, you know. Like, Mario was probably younger in Donkey Kong. It was only been a few years, you know. Like, maybe the original Donkey Kong was at the break of retirement anyway. And yes, still there's some, I'm going to recognize still, it's not a concrete theory. There's still confusion in the mist, but, you know, let's just move on. So yeah, you know, one game that comes to my mind while I'm talking about this is Donkey Kong 94, the Game Boy game, which is very much based off the next game I'm going to show, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which became a series all its own. And I enjoy that series. It was for Donkey Kong 94. It was a remix of the original arcade game, made in a more modern format on a handheld. You know, the levels involved getting from one part of a unfinished building, much like in the arcade game, to the next, reaching Donkey Kong, facing him, and Donkey Kong moves to another part of he gets out of the city. He goes to other parts of the world. Mario has to keep following and following and following him until he, you know, saves the day. And Mario vs. Donkey Kong here has a little more interesting story. This Donkey Kong, I would like to say, is Donkey Kong Jr. grown up. The second generation of Donkey Kong. And the Donkey Kong Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, which became Mario and Donkey Kong, you know, they ended up being a team and all that, which again would solidify the idea of them becoming friends after Cranky Kong's retirement from, you know, being a bad guy or whatever you want to call it. You know, there is the one example they fought, you know, and it was over reasons like Donkey Kong wanted a toy, you know, like, so yeah, clearly there's a reason why Donkey Kong Jr., other than the fact that Diddy Kong was originally going to be Donkey Kong Jr., wiped off the face of the earth. So yeah, here we are, Donkey Kong Jr. He's just hanging out in his house, in this Kong world that they built together, that only his son, the rareware Donkey Kong, will, in the future, be helping with Mario out of the picture. You know, this is a moment where I think Donkey Kong is Donkey Kong Jr., which helps make sense a bit of the age discrepancies. I still think, you know, it's not a perfect idea. I know that, but you know, what are you gonna do, right? Here's the Game Boy Advance. Here's Nintendo's phase of the Game Boy Advance, where they showed a bunch of high quality still frames. You know, actually, this was always impressive. But yeah, you know, nice simple concept to reinvigorate the Donkey Kong 94 formula there. And yeah, here's Donkey Kong. Here's Mario facing off against someone he's been cool with for a long time. That only, that only leads to nowhere. Because Mario, in the end, spoiler alert, gave him one toy anyways, a peace offering after Mario beat him. Donkey Kong was just mad. You know, he's just upset. He wanted something that got sold out. I know how that is. I think a lot of people watching this know how that is. But yeah, really, that's all I gotta say, to be honest with you. I don't even know. I just have this here because I need that third bit, right? And I also need an example of Mario and Donkey Kong interacting, meaning that this is Donkey Kong Jr., not the rare Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country and Donkey Kong 64 and everything from the future after Donkey Kong Country, you know? And yeah, this is the same quality as Donkey Kong 94. I wish I had a copy to show you guys. I don't. I have a digital version on my 3DS, but unfortunately I don't have a 3DS capture card. But that's a lot of fun, and this game does a great job replicating that way back in the day. And what was this, 2004, 2002? I wasn't paying attention. But you know, you know how professional I am. You know how I know. So yeah, let's just awkwardly get to the next part. It's probably the shortest third bit ever. Alright, so yeah, that's all I have to say. Next time, let's just go straight to it. Next time, you know, what's said was said, what's done is done. Donkey Kong, you know. Next time, I want to talk about shovelware. Shovelware is something nobody likes. Let's just put it bluntly. But, you know, I think it's a topic we're talking about, you know. But yeah, shovelware. We're going to talk about what it is, because a lot of people actually never heard that term before. It's a term meaning that games are made really quickly and cheaply to make a quick buck, you know. And that's not always licensed games, so we'll talk about that soon, because we talked about the licensed games. This is different. If there's anything I missed, if there's anything I got wrong, if there's anything you would like to add to the conversation, please do not hesitate to leave a comment. A like and a share will help as well. And thank you all so much for watching. I've been Billy, your Video Game Analyzer. Have a good day, good night, whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you next time.